Evening. Welcome to the Cognitive Rampage. I'm your host, Adam Lowry, as usual. Apologize for being a couple minutes late here, getting going. I also want to apologize. Yeah, come on in, Leo. Leo's my guest tonight. Excuse me. How you doing, bro?
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. I apologize for last week's show. I was thinking about canceling the Ustream, and I kind of acted quickly on it about canceling the Ustream, and moving to the podcast. But setting that podcast up is quite a process, and getting that in motion. But more so, I missed the Ustream show. I missed doing it and talking. I was having fun doing it, and it was kind of a purposeful activity for me. So I realized that I had taken that purposeful activity and stopped doing it. So I had to bring it back. I couldn't let it go. I had to keep doing the show. But the time may switch, being that it's Friday nights. But anyway, the talk went really well on the 18th, this past Saturday. Yeah, it was a good talk. I appreciate everyone that came out to listen to me rampage for a while, because I certainly did that. So thank you to those that were joining us. But I had fun doing that. We were able to record it. We got it being edited right now. George is doing the editing, so thanks, George. We're going to try to put that and master that together so we can get it available for you all. So if you couldn't make the rampage, it'll probably be on my website, probably in a couple weeks or so. We'll have a mastered copy that you can, a digital download, if you will, that you can purchase. Or I may just put up for free, I'm not sure. I'm seeing what to do with it. But anyway, I appreciate all the people that are participating in the Facebook research experiment question that I have going on at my Facebook page there. Have some really good comments that are coming in from it, especially Brent and a couple other people that have been really involved in it. So that's been fun. We're setting up a little research project, and that's some of the information that we'll be using for it. Let's see, I'm trying to cover the bases. Well, the big part about what's coming up is November 1st. November 1st, Leo and myself are going to be doing a cognitive rampage or a talk rampage at the same location that we were just at the Saturday or so ago. I'm really excited about it. I think most of the people know how I rampage when I start talking, but this rampage, I listed a couple 4 things on the flyer there that you can see. But I'll be opening the talk, talking to you all and talking to the people about, how we can spot a possible abusive relationship, how to point out possible codependency, right. Also ways that anger plays into communication. I'm kind of giving the sad sob worry story in the beginning, and then Leo, who's joining me now, licensed clinical social worker, therapist, alphabet, etc., etc. I'll just call him an A through Z. That's what he likes to call us. But Leo's been doing this for 30, 40 years, etc. I consider him a relationship expert. He considers himself a helper. But I know he's been on the show multiple times, but what I wanted to do is kind of talk to you, man, a little bit and let them kind of meet you personally for a little bit. I don't want to get too into the 5-step, assessment that you're going to premiere at the talk on November 1st. But, I want to personalize Leo, man. Like, where do you come from? What's the background? Take us from the top, man. I want to know, well, I know a lot of your stories.
Yeah.
But I know there's many I don't know, and there's people out there that don't know them.
Yeah, we probably can't talk about those on the...
Well, no, some we can't. No, some we can't do, but,
Yeah, I'm still in that witness protection program.
Boy, you're fucked now.
I'm totally...
Yeah. Well, I know you're from Ohio, and we can start kind of there if you want, but, what started cultivating, the practitioner today or the helper today?
I don't know. I just always, was the person that people tend to bring their problems to. And, started as a camp counselor, all that kind of stuff.
Seriously, so what age were people bringing you their problems at already?
Oh, heck, 12, 13, So, it just, I don't know, it just seemed to be that the flow of listening to people and, actually hearing what they say, not just listening to it. I'm trying to understand it. And then when I went out to, originally from Ohio, ended up moving out to Columbus to start school early at Ohio State.
In college, right?
Right.
Now, I have to back you up because I want to go farther back because your father's always been kind of an interesting role in my mind and the small stories you've told me. But I don't know if he is, but who was kind of that primary or purposeful person that influenced that kind of, I don't know, maybe directly or indirectly pushed you that this is where the route you wanted to go? Or is there a story?
Well, I mean, it's, both of my folks are pretty out there. They very social people. My mother owned about 6 or 7 arts academies and dancing academies. That I grew up in a dancing school, basically.
So you just grew up around women 24/7
all
since...
the time, all the time. I just got one sibling. She's an older sister.
Now I know the secret.
That's probably why I focus mostly on women's issues. But my father played the piano in big bands, like Benny Goodman and these Artie Shaw. And they all came through Steubenville, Ohio, where I'm from. My parents were close friends with Dean Martin, who was Dean Cressetti back then. And my father was always, very good at communicating. And
very good at communicating. That sounds like a real PC way to say wore suits and drove Cadillacs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, he was a classy dude. He went out there but their band, their orchestra, I should say, back then was, getting a lot of time. And then he ended up in World War II and went to study something called frequency modulation, which is now known as radar, and busted his ass to make it through, that cut down from 2,000 to about 200, and with a high school diploma. So, but I mean, his love was music. So here he ends up in Puerto Rico.
Well, you play the guitar.
Yeah.
You play a mean-ass guitar. So now I'm seeing. So it's just genetic here. So I got a genetic pass down from the father. I mean, I mean, the stories you've told me a few about him are just, they take me back to like that Goodfellas era almost in my mind.
Yeah, he grew up. I mean,
very Sinatra.
It was like little Chicago at the time. All the big bands from Pittsburgh, they had Blue Laws up there on Sundays. They'd all come down to Steubenville, which is about 35 minutes from Pittsburgh, and it was a wide open town. I mean, gambling, the whole 9 yards. And,
like that.
My dad grew up with the.
Now, see, I'm catching up on my Boardwalk Empire.
Very
so forgive me that that's my mind frame right now.
Totally.
So when you're talking, this era.
Oh, I remember the guy.
So you're growing up in a dancing school with a mom who owns all these art schools with women everywhere, and a dad, Sinatra-like, who's friends with Dean Martin, who is in a big band that plays around the north. Okay, I'm feeling the growth here and the learning. So you're almost getting the street learning with man knowledge with this
great story.
But you were infiltrating the women's side.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I used to sit in those conversations. I'm sorry to steal it for a second, but my Aunt Betty and my mom, they would sit around some days, and they would talk for hours. And sometimes I get involved or just listen or witness, and I think that kind of led to kind of my ability to reflect or something.
Well, I mean, it's it's part of the genetics too, where your personality a lot comes from your parents and or your great grandfather for that matter.
Yeah.
But they were always really social, real positive people. And music was a big thing on my father's side. Back when he went to Puerto Rico after all that schooling, he ended up.
So your dad moved to Puerto Rico?
No. When he joined World War II.
Oh, okay.
He enlisted and thought, okay, now I get into this frequency modulation stuff. And ended up stringing wire in the swamps down in Puerto Rico, and some colonel found out that he, organized a big band. So for the duration of the war, he was going through employee files trying to find who's a musician, and put together an orchestra in Puerto Rico, and ended up being the first orchestra that broadcast on Armed Forces Radio.
Really?
And so he did that pretty much for the duration of the war.
See, you told me some things, but yeah.
But he ended up going off over a cliff when they were moving some music equipment, and they were moving to another officers' club, and was in a coma for about a year with a skull fracture, and so that was his war injury, going to play another gig. So, but yeah, really positive person. Mom is really easy. You can talk to anyone. Her side of the family, most of the time, dinner table, you didn't know three of the people sitting there because my mom or grandmother, they saw someone, just buying that little, TV dinner there, and they just invite them home for dinner. So most of the time, I didn't even know the people around. But it was neat. We met a lot of families and cultures and stuff that I never would have met otherwise. So.
So I can see how that had a real influence to kind of start seeding that idea of openness and open-mindedness, helpfulness at the same time. Because even being involved in music is a purity and an art form there itself. Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna push it back forward to Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, did you go to Ohio State University, go into it knowing you were going to be a counselor, like that was it, or did we change majors 15 times, or?
No. The reason I decided to go into it is, I mean, if you're a person that, people are bringing their problems, after a while you start to feel like you should know what the hell you're talking about. So I thought I should actually maybe go to school and find out about this. So undergrad major was in psychology, and I found out pretty quickly that you learn that if you go to any therapist, psychiatrist, physician, whatever, 95% of the person you're talking to is that person. The other stuff is what you learn in school. It just helps you think.
I agree.
But so you learn quickly then, you had the right idea. You were given the type of advice based on your own personal truth and the truth that I assimilated from so many other people that I had been around. What made sense to me, I tried to share. And you found yourself, we've talked about it, that you've got this great idea and you're reading along, it's like, oh, so someone else had that idea.
Right, the idea is not so genuine.
Exactly. It's like music. I mean, there are no completely original ideas, but you add your own experience to them, and that's what customizes it, that's what personalizes it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much why I stayed in it. I got out of it for a while to do research.
That's right. I was going to say, I knew you had a background in research, and what were some of the crazy experiments you were involved in? Give me some crazy shit.
Well, I can't go into those.
All right. There's two or three you can't really talk about?
No,
can we talk about the Great Escape that you manufactured at Ohio State University?
Oh, yeah, it was my research subjects.
Can we? Now, I'm telling you, this story's fucking awesome. Now, for the animal lovers, now we're all right. Is there a statute of limitations on this shit?
Probably not, but that's all right.
You sure?
It's worth going to jail for it.
All right, so set it, man.
Well, I don't believe in euthanizing animals, even in laboratory for experiments, particularly when what you're doing with them there's no threat to the public or something getting out into the ecosystem. But like I worked with rabbits, one example. Mm-hmm. And when you're done with those, let me get back up. I started out as a research assistant in rheumatology, then research associate in pediatric cardiology, then pharmacology, and then in muscle physiology.
Okay.
So
it's a lot of fucking research, man.
Oh, it was a little sidetrack. Well, at the time, the person I was with was going to medical school and then residency. One of us had to have a real job. So
and that person was like ranked in the world in something. But yeah, so what research brought you to these rabbits, man?
Well, they were doing some antibody research, and I had like 14 rabbits. And most of the other experimenters, the rabbits screech. I didn't realize they have a warning sign when they thump their back foot because you had to sort of draw some blood samples from them. They didn't like that. But I got some xylocaine jelly to numb where you have to draw it from, and lanolin so readers don't get all brittle.
You try to take care of them, right? I guess.
Smuggle in lettuce for them and junk like that. But then they told me, you get studies done now. You have to put down the rabbits.
So you take care of these rabbits. They experiment on them. Now they're telling you got to go euthanize them.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. But
you didn't name them, did you?
No, I didn't name them. But about two or three at a time, I'd put them in my backpack. And I'd sign off that they had been euthanized, and walking past the security guards, and the backpack's going like, and so I smuggled them all off to a petting zoo in the northern part of the city, and they lived happily ever after. So
you snuggled 2-3 bunnies out at a time, kicking.
Yeah.
Now was it the classic security guard sleeping at the front and kicking rabbit going by, and so you set him free?
Well, I don't think he was expecting it because no one's ever done it before, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, is that the only jailbreak and animal savior that on your resume?
No, I did some frogs too, which may have screwed up the ecosystem actually.
So
Uh, yeah, I had these Irish frogs when I was in muscle physiology that thought maybe, when the experiments were over, there's a river in Columbus called the Olentangy River, and it sounded Irish to me. So it was Frog Liberation Day, and I thought maybe that's the best shot. But after a while, I started to think that, maybe they're wondering how these Irish frogs, swam across the Atlantic and migrated into northern, central Ohio.
So if there's any paleontologists
sorry about it.
and you're finding frogs in the Ohio area that are from where?
Ireland.
That are from Ireland, it's because of this guy?
Yeah.
That's good, but you freed the frogs and ruined the ecosystems. That's nice, man.
Seriously.
So what's a story that you have that helped shape either a philosophy in your life or an approach to counseling in your life, man? Whether it's childhood or, I don't know, just a changing, molding story.
Well, I had a lot of summer jobs, but the main job I did through college is my first job that in this field was in an inner city hospital as a psychiatric orderly, and I was just turned 17. So from that point on, when that took place way back in the 70s, early 70s, it was a whole different field, and what was going on, it's like light years from that now. But you saw what didn't make sense, but as a position like an orderly or something, you don't much say so. But as you progress in the field, you have a good feel for the patients, their issues, where they could have benefited had this taken place or this person taken the time to do this.
So you're 17 and an orderly in a state hospital.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And you learn a lot from the patients. I mean, they tell you what they need.
Yeah.
So there's the medical aspect of things as it relates. Back then, the medications may help with one of the problem issues, but it eliminated 10 others that you didn't want to have eliminated.
Yeah.
So, just the idea of getting to understand where the issues were with the patients, what they needed to communicate, and spent hours and hours just sitting with patients talking, and you can see the emotion, the different types of issues they were coping with, and how emotion was driving them, and that's sort of where I got an understanding to help them separate what is emotion and what's the truth. And that was was way back then, and my whole theoretical approach then is to separate truth from emotion. And
so that's where truth, not emotion, came from.
Pretty much. Yeah. That whole evolution of understanding that emotions by themselves make lousy choices. So.
So at 17, and your first job in the field at 17 is the most impressionable on your philosophy today.
Well, it evolved. I mean,
wow.
Initially at 17, you're just trying to make sense of it. But after 2 or 3 years doing it, it becomes more clear that the issues are emotionally based, and those emotions are largely controlled by genetics, and if you're having a biological imbalance of some sort.
Yeah.
But it, sometimes it's not what you're thinking; it's how you're thinking.
Sure.
And to help those individuals understand, there's another side to what they're going through, called the truth, and there's the emotion in which they're living in. And
at least our own personal truth.
Right. And to recognize the difference. And because anytime you talk to someone, if you're telling them something that makes sense to them, it's because they already knew it. And you're helping them rediscover that it's always been there. But all the crap that happens to people just starts to pile up on top of that. I mean, people call it your gut feeling. I mean, that is your truth. That is your wisdom, your personal truth. But it's a very quiet voice. I mean, and when you're reacting to things, it takes you further and further away from that. So you hear it less and less. And that's where I talk about hitting the pause button, just to let all that emotion blow by you, because it's always way out in front.
Right.
And let the wisdom catch up to the present. And that's why most everyone gives good advice.
Right.
But they say, what, you can't take your own advice because of the emotional clouds. And that's where that poem comes from. With infinite wisdom, cool, calm, and benign, I'll solve anyone's problem unless it is mine, because of the emotion.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can be messed up. You can be drinking all night or whatever, and someone you love comes up and says, "I got a dilemma," which is the one that you're struggling with.
Right.
It's your second
Share
guessing.
that fear with him.
Yeah. Well, immediately you're listening to them, and okay, if I'm dealing with the exact same thing, I know exactly what I want them to do. I mean, you can be messed up and you still give good advice because you're tapping into your wisdom.
Because that wisdom.
That's true. And that's the whole philosophy where it started from. Then what's the problem? Then when in doubt, do what you would advise. Then you're tapping into your own truth. Now you may not feel like it, but then again, you don't trust emotion by itself. So I mean, just because it's there, it's like an annoying person in the room. I may not be able to make them leave, but I choose how much I want to acknowledge that they're there.
Sure.
And that is that emotion. But once you start responding to the truth, that truth then propels you into a sense of confidence, as we've talked about. Because I know I can always find the answer. I can identify the problem. I know what I would advise based on my truth.
Right.
I trust myself to override emotion and do what I would advise. Respond to it, not react to emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that consistently. That's where the confidence grows into confidence. And as we talked about, which leads to enthusiasm. So,
now you had a practice before you moved to Naples. I know it was really large, high functioning practice.
Right.
Now on your website, on there, it's a women's specialist or women's issues specialist. For some, help explain that, but kind of correlate that to your experience in Chicago and how that got shaped. I mean, from your childhood, understanding being a woman's issue specialist, I mean, understanding that, growing up around the environment you were in, can place that. I get it, but in Chicago, how did that correlate and how did that begin to evolve as your niche?
Well,
that in relationships, but
most people seeking counseling, probably 80% are more likely to be women than men. Men still think they can solve it on their own. But I don't know, I just found that I had the ability to have that insight or that ability to understand a person without much communication, to get inside their head a little bit. Not intentionally, I don't mean to be intrusive. It's sort of like I go through the back window, not the front door, as we talk about.
Right, I tend to kick in the front door as you sneak in the back window of the mind.
I don't even mean to, but because of that, from a guy perspective, I understand what was happening. But I had that ability to understand it from a woman's perspective too, which really helped in relationships. And as a result, when you're successful in resolving something for a couple, this whole profession is based on word of mouth. And and so other people with those same issues, word got out, and then it sort of spreads exponentially. So the next thing I know, the practice is all about women's issues, no matter what they are. And so then all types of women, I had, very conservative women. I had populations of Mennonites. I had groups of lesbians, from downtown Chicago. But
now, wasn't there a certain place sending you their employees that you got a long list of how you started to also develop? So, I mean, we got Mennonites you're seeing, groups of churches. We have professional women, corporate business women that you were seeing. How large was the practice? How many clients were you seeing in a year or so?
Well, a lot of it came from downtown Chicago. A lot of corporate executives, the unique stressors that women have in corporate society.
Mm-hmm.
Where how they can excel and progress and still maintain their personal values and not just assimilate the corporate values, to separate those. But when I left, probably seeing between 1,500 and 1,700 women a year. Maybe about 56 a week.
Right. As clients, therapists, not seeing like dating, just to be clear, in case you're just tuning in and all you heard him say was I was seeing about 1,500 women a year.
Yeah.
He's a therapist.
I'd be dead if that was the case. So,
right. So that experience itself, so it really shaped itself. You didn't select the niche and say, this is what I'm going to treat.
Right.
It just evolved throughout the practice and the practice development.
Yeah, it just found me. And it's amazing how far-reaching that. There's about 100-mile radius of people that would come in.
Yeah.
But I also had people that flew in there were certain employees from Las Vegas that I had heard about, and so I was, covering their issues.
So were you servicing the service girls from Vegas?
No.
With therapy?
No, there's standards you have to maintain. So,
okay.
But no, it was a real diverse population, which I enjoyed because
That's what I meant with therapy. That's you were the therapist.
But the issues are all there's a common thread.
That everywhere. Lifestyle itself is extreme. So dealing with that aspect of their environments, the life choices, that etc. Exactly. Yeah, that range of the corporate professional, to the housewife, and corporate professional, to the mom housewife, corporate professional, all the way up to all stretches of the different roles that they play.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting because you never know. You don't get bored. Some of the stories are similar, but everyone's unique in how they handle it and how to help them understand it. So, but it's been very rewarding actually because I still touch base from a therapeutic standpoint on a lot of people that are now in all the way from maybe San Diego, Seattle, Boston. Yeah. Pretty much as they moved, they still had questions and they didn't want to pursue with another therapist. So it's been good to make that resource available to them. So,
what were some of your mentors coming up, and maybe who are some of your mentors now?
Well, I have similar ones, like having like Albert Ellis and people that who had philosophies that fit my own way of thinking. That sounds narcissistic. Like, I'll find someone that agrees with me, then I'll make them mine. But in reality, the only bottom line was they had a philosophy that was compatible with what I wanted to listen to. But then you form your own type of understanding of what that means to you, like you've done. Mm-hmm.
Besides Albert, who else was influential in the shaping of those philosophies of that learning?
It's funny. My mom's father had a big influence. His style of delivery and the way he looked at life. My favorite quote is, he would say, "Never pass up the opportunity to say nothing." And as a kid, that made no sense. He would tell me that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means you're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk.
Right.
And these little pearls that I got from him and how he dealt with things, and people brought a lot of problems to him. All the different theorists. The people you're talking about, like Tim Ferriss is awesome to listen to modern day, where you're continuing to stretch your understanding of things. But the core of what you feel is compatible with you is pretty well formed early on, and then you just build on that structure. And you try to find things compatible to fit it. It's like emotional Legos. And then once you get them just the way you wanted, then you rearrange them all again, and add more to it. So there's no end to where you stop growing from that. But the common thread is your own sense of, and that gets me back to the understanding of your own truth. And we make life way too complicated. Just slow it down. That's where that pause thing comes in. And when you do that, and just know that we talk about life is about process, not outcome. And if I keep making healthy choices in a healthy process, the choices that I would advise someone else to make, the outcomes are all going to take care of themselves. Good choices, good outcomes. Bad choices, not so good outcomes. So we just to try to keep it simple. But
what led to the development of this assessment? Now, the 5-step assessment to finding the right relationship or recognizing the right relationship.
Right.
What began that? What built into that? How long in the career has that been around? I'll throw a bunch of questions at you at once, and I'm sure you'll answer it.
Well, it's been around probably about 25 years now.
So the first development was...
Yeah.
You don't need to say how long ago it was, but so it's been in development for a while with you.
Well, it's a philosophy that takes a lot of the emotion, literally, where you can understand it instead of being vulnerable to it. A lot of people in relationships get in trouble because a lot of people fall in love with the emotion, how that person makes them feel, or what they want to believe. They fall in love with being in love. but don't even know who the person is.
Right.
And that's why I think there's a lot of divorce, because we're basing it on a potential without even really knowing the reality. And we keep trying to get back.
Well, we're basing it on the potential before we understand the reality.
Right. Right.
That's serious. So when people are assessing a relationship, that's another Leoism.
Yeah.
Be careful not to base it on the potential, right? And look at the reality.
Take the time to find the reality.
That's true, because people fall in love with the potential of what the relationship could be,
or what they hope it will
before they even understand what the relationship is.
Right. And again, everyone that you meet initially, the first step is, first of all, when you're dealing with relationships, before you even get there, it's hard to know what you need in a relationship until you know who you are. A lot of people tend to get out of a relationship and get into another one.
That's what I call monkey barring.
Yeah.
Relationship to relationship. They can't even let go of the first toxic relationship before I grab onto another one.
It's true.
When truly, they possibly are the common denominator between them. Choosing, but so this assessment helps them select it or process it?
No, I tell people just take the time. It's going to take about 6 months to really sort of clean the slate and sort of regroup and get recentered and know who you are. Because when you end that relationship, even a bad relationship, you still have that grief. You're grieving the potential of what you hoped it could have been. You're grieving all the possibilities of what aren't going to be. There's future plans you made.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still feeling attachment. Attachment feels a whole lot like love. Attachment is like if you have a dog wanders up to your back door and you have no interest in having a dog right now, but it gives you that whipped dog look and it's raining and shivering. You're like, all right, come on in, give it some food, water. Tomorrow we'll find out who your owner is.
Mm-hmm.
It's growling at you, won't even let you pet it, but it's not your dog. You call around, no one knows who owns this dog. It starts chewing on your favorite shoes, ripping up the couch, but you can't find it in your heart just to kick it out. You just can't do it. And it still won't let you pet it. So after about 6 or 7 months, someone calls and says, you still want to get rid of that dog? And you're like, absolutely, right now. It's 2 a.m, I don't care. Take bull leash, everything. The dog was like Cujo. So they come over and they pick up this dog and they put it in the back seat.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog gets up on its hind legs and looks out the back window at you as it drives away. How do you feel?
Sad you let it go, right?
But you're not even compatible with that dog. That dog won't even let you pet it. It just growl at you. Okay? So what you're grieving there is
the attachment.
That's
the attachment.
Because
good.
that dog represented 6 months of your life.
Mm.
And it's like, by losing that dog, I'm losing that part of me.
Right.
But so that makes people second guess. And, let's try this again. But no, if you have time to understand why this did not work out, and as a result know what I need, what I can tolerate, what I can't, and then enter into a relationship, then you have it's not a matter of trusting other people, it's a matter of trusting yourself. And if you don't trust yourself to know who you are, then you're probably going to make the same mistakes you made before.
Right.
Because when you meet that next guy or that next woman, there may be some really disturbing traits there, but they're extremely mild compared to the person you had before.
Mm-hmm.
And there's almost a comfort with that because I'm an expert on this kind of person. I mean, and if I could deal with that person, this person's a piece of cake. Plus there's all this good stuff. Well, unfortunately, the good stuff, that window dressing comes down over time, and those little mild things start to magnify. Now you're with the same person again. The names change, the faces change, but you're right back in the same boat again.
It's true.
So,
and that's because the way they're choosing the relationship or how they're choosing a relationship. Right. And so that's what I was asking before. So the assessment, this is, I would essentially say, recognizing the right relationship, not really finding it. So when you have the relationship potential, you want to assess the relationship potential, but not. Or no, you want to assess the relationship reality and avoid focusing on the relationship potential. So that assessment's used at the beginning is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, what you're searching for is getting it right. What do I need to do to get it right?
Now, when we say get it right, I'm trying to be clear for the people watching. The assessment, we want to do the assessment as after we've met somebody, and we're using the assessment on a particular person, as opposed to this is an assessment that will help you find the right person that's out there?
Well, it'll help you weed out the people that you don't want to invest time in.
So that's what I'm saying. We
and
meet
it
the
also-
person. It helps us when we meet the person to assess the person that we have met.
Right.
Right.
So, and it's a 5-step assessment.
I have to be clear about that, because do you know how many dating books, etc., that talk about, will teach you how to find the right relationship as if it's a hidden treasure somewhere out there that to be
Right.
cultivated and dug up.
Right.
So that's why I'm trying to be specific with the dialogue, that it's not finding the right relationship. Your assessment's not going to find this magical person out of the sky. Essentially, it's really about recognizing the right relationship when you meet someone.
or recognizing the wrong relationship.
Sure.
I mean, getting it right is, I got it right, that's not a good fit. Or I got it right, that is a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, for instance, like the first step then is just to understand that anyone you meet is on a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
And you are too, to some extent. No one puts their worst foot forward, but if you're being genuine,
Mm-hmm.
and if that person is trying to be the person they think you want them to be, well, and they have no baggage. They've never argued with me. They've never disagreed. They never hurt me. They're being extremely nice to me. I'm enjoying this. But they're perfect. Okay? And so you could fall in love with how someone makes you feel, like I said before, without even knowing who they are.
Mm.
Okay.
That's falling in love with that perception of who they are.
The potential.
Yeah, okay, that's what you said. So it's
Yeah.
falling in love with the potential. What was that line again?
Well, I mean,
You said it a while ago.
to fall in love with the potential without even knowing the reality.
That's it.
And that's what bites you in the butt. And then you're almost once you realize, well, wait a minute, where's that person I first knew? Now, oftentimes we tend to blame ourselves. So maybe if I lost weight, or maybe if had I not, gone out that weekend and where they got ticked off at me, or maybe if I changed my hair color, or maybe if I make more money. You're trying to fix it to get back to that person you first knew.
Mm-hmm.
Until maybe you wake up one morning, 3 years into the relationship and realize, whoa, maybe the person that actually exists is the person I've known the last 3 months, and the person I fell in love with was on a job interview.
Mm.
And one way of asking yourself that, and I've asked this to people, is if you knew everything you knew right now, the first time that person walked up to you, would you even give them your phone number? And they're like, hell no. Then why are you trying to be married to them if you don't even want to date them based on the reality that you know?
Mm.
But people are persistent, and other people start to just get complacent. It's like, well, maybe the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know.
Sure.
Or I'm afraid to be alone.
And I think people accept the love that they think they deserve.
Yeah, or sometimes they feel that maybe I'm not, like you said, entitled to any more than that.
Mm.
So, but there's nothing wrong with job interview, as long as you're aware that it's a job interview. Enjoy the hell out of it. I mean, it's a good time. I mean, the person, good, bad, or indifferent, they're being nice. Enjoy it. And it's going to take a while, but once a job interview winds down, which is about maybe 3 to 6 months, it can be up to a year. If you see them regularly and they're communicative, maybe 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Someone doesn't get their own way, something doesn't go right, a little bit.
Right.
If they're not very talkative, then it can take about up to 6 months. And if it's a long distance relationship, it can take up to a year, because when you do see that person, no one puts that worst foot forward.
Right, you're right.
So
You
it's
don't
a long
see them
job
much.
interview.
Hence, that's the biggest issue with long distance relationships,
Right.
is that fact.
Right.
When you see each other, it's great because you don't do it much, but you're almost posing to that point.
Right.
It's true.
And then the next step, once you're past that, that's where you start to fine tune what it is I know. And just not to completely talk about it here.
Yeah, I'm trying to dance around it a little bit.
But you'll find, though, the next 4 steps are very easy to sort through. But it goes back to, it's not about them. It's about you trusting yourself to ask the right questions, to do your homework. And the answers are right there. Now, maybe that person ends up being, a friend. Because there's certain things that aren't going to click based on the questions you're going to ask.
Sure.
Or maybe everything is fine, but maybe there's not the chemistry or something. So, maybe they end up being a best friend. But to have long-term potential, now that's a special set of criteria.
Hmm.
And if you know that criteria, it's real clear.
And in
That
your assessment, you talk about this criteria.
Absolutely.
You talk about this criteria that's important to match up with,
Right.
to know when to move forward. That's some important stuff in that criteria.
Yeah.
And I want to get further into detail about that 5-step assessment. I do on its title step, but on November 1st, you'll be talking about it and displaying it
And
there.
we'll give all 5 steps on the first.
Yeah, and also on November 1st, if you will, just so you mark it down, at 3210 Tamiami Trail, the Hampton Inn here in Naples. Leo and myself will be giving a talk. We're titling Recognizing the Right Relationship. I'll be in the beginning talking about recognizing an abusive relationship, how to understand why that's unfolding, how it's unfolding, recognizing and dealing with codependency, where anger plays into communication, and to the prestige or the the big event there. Leo will close the talk talking about his 5-step assessment to recognizing the right relationship and how that applies to you. It's a great assessment for those that may be dating someone, or just met someone, or possibly even been married to someone for a long period of time and is unsure where we're at. So that assessment can be applied in many facets of dating or marriage, etc. So we're going to keep hanging out for a little bit, man. Don't go nowhere, brother. Yeah, I wanted you guys to get to know Leo tonight. You know me, I usually do most of the rambling. But you've seen him on the show a lot. We've talked about a lot of his views, theories, philosophies, but I wanted a chance to really get to know who you are, before you walk on the Cognitive Rampage stage.
Sure.
And do some talking. So
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this conversation. I actually heard 3-4 new stories about you.
Ah.
I hadn't heard before, man. So it was really good to keep chatting. But so yeah, the Ustream show is going to stay on every Fridays at 7. Leo's going to broadcast his show also on TruthNotEmotion.com. If you want to see Leo, he does phone sessions, phone therapy. He can do web therapy as well, face-to-face, concierge even. But you can find him at TruthNotEmotion.com. Again,
Or schedule an appointment. That's fine.
yeah, or schedule an appointment that way, even if you just want to talk. We're putting together a new show as well that he'll be launching with about relationships and things. But we'll talk more about that about the event. But again, it's been fun.
Yeah.
Again, one more thank you to everyone that came out to the Rampage on the 18th. That was fun. Please come out November 1st again, and we'll see if we can help people recognize the right relationship or the wrong one.
Well, absolutely. And I'm still getting postcards that there's happily ever after postcard.
Yeah.
Probably have about 600 of them sent over the last 20 years. It does work.
It does. So
work,
600 thank you cards from married individuals who had help from Leo directly recognizing the right relationship. So that's important to put out. 600 marriages, man. That's all right over some time with that assessment. So I hope you see you there. Check out his website, TruthNotEmotion.com. There's a lot of new things up too on this website. Go through it, check some new stuff out. Give me some suggestions about guest topics, hosts, whatever. Books even. I'm reading a few new ones right now. One right now. I'm getting through the one you actually gave me, sort of a little at a time. But again, appreciate everybody joining me on the Cognitive Rampage. We'll see you next Friday about 7 o'clock then.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.